friends, neighbors, Americans, Germans, Russians, Chinese people, whoever you happen to be. I'm going to tell you right now, I am down with culinary globalization. But I have been doing a little research lately, and I have found that 90% of the stuff you think is from the country it says it's from, it isn't. To that end, I have decided to bring back some of the mighty recipes of old. Now, I have given a list of possible foods to my legal team, and they are sorting through them now, and they are about to come at me with the answer. Hello? Hello? Yes? Yes? Okay. I'll tell them. Let's go. Okay, we are going to make rye bread here. Now, you're going to want a big bowl, have some water coming to a boil, and let's begin. Okay. Now, we need to make a mixture of lukewarm water, rye flour, bread flour, and yeast. Now, for water tends to carry a lot of stuff, including like chlorine, which we use to purify it for drinking. It's good for drinking, but it is not good for bread, because it tends to make the bread taste funny. Bottled water doesn't have this problem. So I use bottled water. One bottle is usually about the 2 cups I need. And I warm it up in the microwave for about 30-second intervals and check on it. In the meantime, we'll work on my now you can find these in a lot of specialty stores, and of course there's that whole World Wide Web thing too. Also, if the water looks like it's going to boil over quickly, please turn off the microwave. Yeast, of course, you probably know what yeast does. It rises bread. It's basically unicellular critters that belch and rise your bread. When water feels just warm enough, give it 10 more seconds. Now, word about temperature and yeast. Yeast are basically dry when you get them in a package, despite what kind you get. Now, the water should not be under 80 degrees because under there they go to sleep. And it can't be over 130 degrees because beyond that they go to sleep forever. 1 package of either quick rise or rapid rise yeast should do. Now, I normally don't use rapid rise yeast, but for this bread, you actually will almost be glad you did because it takes so long, because the rye flour is kind of an act. We'll talk about yeast later. Hang on. So we're going to let this yeast bloom real quick. That means let it get nice and frothy. Now, what is so important about the type of yeast you use? Let's return to the lab, shall we? Since yeast tend to vary from what type you get, I feel like it's fair we mention what they do. Now, first there's active dry yeast, which isn't really active at all. In fact, it's mostly dead. I mean, it's basically been dried really harshly, and I like it for stuff like pretzels where it doesn't need to rise too much. But for stuff like bread, we need it to rise a bit more than pretzel dough. Now, there's also quick rise yeast, which is dried in a kinder, gentler way, which I like for stuff like normal bread, but for rye bread, which the rye flour tends to agitate and take a while to load, we're not doing it. Now, there's rapid rise yeast, which are more or less turbocharged mutant yeast bred for speed. Now, if there's sugar in the dough, I won't use it because they eat up the sugar really quickly. No actual raw sugar is going in this recipe, so I am not very worried. Let's head back. Okay, just remember, rapid rise yeast doesn't need to bloom as much because, well, it's more or less instant. I do like to let it bloom though, just so that they'll wake up a little quicker. You know what I mean. Now the next step. Okay. 1 cup of rye flour. Now, one cup of rye flour and 2 cups of bread flour. Now, we need to form this into a sponge, so I take my favorite wooden spoon and just stir it until everything is combined and you don't see much of the dry goods anymore. Now, okay, if this bread dough is going to work at all, we are going to put it, sorry if you can't see my face, we are going to put it in the oven. Now, Now, I like the oven. Now, I like to put bread dough in the oven because I know I can keep it warm in here. But not in the way that you think. I don't keep this in the oven all the time, but sometimes. Okay. I know you heard me say before that beyond 130, yeast go to sleep permanently. If the water they are mixed in is 180, but they'll be fine. And with hot water under them. This water should be close to boiling. Whatever thing. Okay, 2 to 3 hours. Or overnight, but if it's overnight, I wouldn't leave it here. The bread has thoroughly rised with the hot water. This is what you want to see. This is why we wouldn't do it overnight, because you come down in the morning, open it up, and everybody's on a blob. Never mind. Now we're going to need about a tablespoon of salt. Kosher, please. Now you're going to need some water to begin with, because this is incredibly delicate. This is why I didn't use a stand mixer, hook attachment, because it will just fall apart. This is what the water's for. There's so much flour that it is not going to be able to be absorbed by all that dough, because it's not very liquidy. Sorry about that. Now, we want it to form a smooth dough, but we also kind of want a tightly packed dough that looks like a bread dough. So, when you get it about to a point where you think you can actually touch it, start hand kneading. In the bowl, please. Now, we're putting this back in our oven. Size. Now the next step. We have filled 2 bread pans about 1/8 of an inch of flour. We punch that down. Get out your friendly neighborhood cutting board and you just kind of start scooping this out. This bowl is finally retiring for the night. Take your longest, sharpest knife, slice it down the middle-ish, pick it up, look at it, think, kind of move each one into pans to inform you. Now, I'm sorry to inform you, but it's not going to look like enough. But it will we have to let it rise again, and it will fill this area. Now the next part. Our respective breads. Place them in the water. If they don't both fit, if they don't seem to fit completely, that's okay. Just kind of, well, that works. Use a 13x9-inch pan. Now the bread goes into the oven for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Well, here it is, the final product. To know it's done, thump it, and it should be completely hollow sounding. Of course, it won't taste like it's hollow. Now, this will keep wrapped in the refrigerator for 2 weeks. Not that it will last that long. This will also taste great with your own spreadable butter, but hey, that's another show. Okay, see you next time.